This video is sponsored by Cricut. I can't wait to share with you this fun project that I made. It is such a lovely day out here today. Even though there's snow on the ground, I can feel spring in the air. So I thought I would take you out here to show you the field that I'm going to be talking about today and what we're doing in this field. It's one of the biggest risks I think we've ever taken. The biggest leap of faith, and super excited to bring you along. Now, if you actually have been with us the last 4 or 5 years, you may already know what I'm talking about, what we plan to plant here in this field. But if you're new here, let's fill you in. So this dream has been a long time coming, and we have been saving up, learning everything we can, preparing property, but we're so excited to actually put some roots in, quite literally. So we have ordered over 3,000 lavender plants and gearing up for this spring, getting them in this ground, filling this field with rows and rows of lavender. So exciting. It'll be like a little piece of France right here in our home. We're just so thrilled. This has been a long time farm dream for us, and maybe I'll share a little bit of the backstory, but basically today I have some projects that I want to do to prepare, because I know the snow is going to melt soon and we're going to need to get this field really prepared for these plants before they come. So I have a little project that's going to help us to be able to identify the plants in the ground. If you're not aware, there are hundreds of different lavender varieties, and we've ordered a little over 30 different varieties. So labeling them is going to be really important. So I have this fun project that I'm going to do to be able to beautifully label our lavender farm. And if you have a garden, plants around your home that you would like to label as well, this might be a really fun idea for you. And since lavender is so much on our minds, I've been playing around with cooking with lavender. Some lavender varieties are so great for culinary, especially the more sweeter varieties. So I have some of that, and I have a recipe that I want to share with you. It's a go-to recipe, and it's really easy to be able to flavor things with a little bit of lavender. So I'll show you how to do that. So let's go work on that fun project, and we'll go from there. I'm using the Cricut Joy Extra to make these lavender plant labels, which would also be so cute for any garden label. The Cricut Joy Extra is really this nice, compact, cute little machine that packs a big punch. It was so fun to dive into the Cricut design space, where they have a ton of tutorials, project ideas, oodles of inspiration to get you going on any project with your Cricut. It's super user-friendly. I was amazed at how many font and graphic options they've included. Just a lot of fun to play with, and I finally ended up on kind of the script font for my lavender labels. And I'm really curious if any of you have ever heard of these lavender names and varieties. It would be fun to chat about that in the comments. To make the actual label, I'm using these darling enamel plaques. I think they work great. They'll be so cute hanging up on a little plant stand. And just so you know, I will be linking all the products that I'm using here today in the description below for your convenience. What's really awesome about this purple vinyl, which by the way isn't purple, just perfect for a lavender plant label. Anyway, this is Cricut's premium permanent vinyl, which is UV and water resistant. So it should work great outside for quite some time. So I was excited that they had that option. While I'm making these plant labels, let's chat a little bit about why lavender. Why are we so inspired to plant lavender? There are quite a few reasons. Well, first of all, it is one of the highest profit crops in America, which means you can turn a pretty good profit on it, which I hope is something that we can do over time. There really are varied ways to make money with lavender. You can be a wholesaler. You can make your own products, essential oils, lotions, soaps, wreaths, you name it. Sky's the limit there. And you can also build it out to be an attraction where people can come visit the farm. It's more of an agritourism. I heard a lot at the conference that we went to that if you build it, they will come. People are just attracted by lavender. And I know that's definitely the case for me. I mean, it just smells so good. It's so beautiful. Who wouldn't want to frolic down rows of lavender, right? You can use it for photography venues. Lots of really cool reasons, but also when looking at our land and our location, we really have an ideal climate for lavender. We have kind of crappy soil where we're at, which lavender thrives in. It's dry, and we may have to worry about winters, but it really does quite well in our area. So basically, this lavender farm is our retirement plan. Not that I don't love to create content online for you through my blog and YouTube channel and everything else I do. I really don't want to do this forever. The more I sit at the computer, the harder it gets as I age. So I just really hope that this is something that can be another source of income for us, since both my husband and I are self-employed. It can be something we get our kids involved in, hopefully even a way to provide for them if they need the work at some point. So those are a few of the many reasons that we are highly attracted to lavender. Kevin and I have actually through the years attended a lot of classes on growing lavender. We've been to multi-day conferences and visiting people's farms. And every time I do, or every time we do, I should say, we just leave so inspired. It just feels so right. And we're excited about the potential and the possibilities. And we don't really know where this road will take us, but we're excited to finally begin this journey. And I can't wait to take you all along with us through the years. Let me know what you think of these plant labels. I think they turned out great. And I just love that this cute little compact cricket can sit right on my shelf and it's ready for use every time I get a creative itch. So I'm clearly not going to put these in this field right now, but I couldn't resist staking up a couple just to see what it looks like. So I got these plant stands for like hanging labels. So I'm just going to stick them in the ground, put up the label, admire it, and get even more excited for when we get to put them all out. You know, I just think for our own purposes, sorry, I hurt my mouth. For our own purposes, it'll be super nice to have our lavender labeled, especially seeing how there's so many varieties, but also like for anyone that comes to visit the farm, which we hope to bring many people here someday. It'll be really cool to walk around and be able to identify the differences in plants and their names. So just really excited about this project, and I want to do it in our vegetable garden now, herb garden. I just think they're so adorable. So another fun thing I get to do today is smell lavender. Oh, it smells so good. So my husband and I went to, here, I'll put this down. My husband and I went to the United States Lavender Growers Association conference in January. And it was amazing, just amazing to be around so many other lavender farmers, vendors, and everything. Anyway, my husband won this whole tray of lavender. It's the Provence kind, which is more of a savory lavender. They often use it in the Herbs de Provence blend. But anyway, they were doing a raffle at the end. This is one of the vendor booths that actually sells the little lavender plugs. And Kevin won. So that was his carry-on in the plane. It was super entertaining and smelled so good. We got a lot of comments. And since they're just these tiny little plugs, well, they're like outgrowing this space. So I need to replant them and get them in a bigger container. So that's something else fun that I get to do today. right, let's work on a fun recipe together. So I am making one of my family's favorite recipes, favorite treats. These are my whole grain lavender cinnamon rolls. Of course, you can leave out the lavender if you want, but it is delicious. To bring in the lavender flavor to these cinnamon rolls, all I'm doing is infusing the sugar with lavender buds. These are a culinary variety. They're really sweet, delicious. And I'm using sucanat, which is a more pure form of sugar. I don't know if I could say healthy, but it's a little bit of a cleaner sugar. But you could totally use white sugar for this. So you just put the sugar in your blender with the lavender buds and blend them up together, and then it actually creates more of like a powdered sugar texture, which is great for cinnamon rolls since you want that sugar to dissolve. And the sugar is not going in our dough, but it's going to be in the icing and in the filling of the cinnamon rolls. So here you see I'm making the dough. I'm just adding oil, salt, honey, egg, water, and I love to add some sunflower lecithin. It helps everything mix and blend together. I find with whole grains, a couple of tablespoons of this is great to throw in. It just gives it more of that fluffy, chewy texture that we're used to in bread, but sometimes whole grains don't turn out that way. So it's great to throw that in, and then I just blend it all with the flour and some instant yeast. That's what I'm using for this recipe. You could also use just active dry yeast. Either work, it just depends on how long you want to wait for it to rise. And don't you worry, this recipe will be at tidbitsandcompany.com, which is my blog, so I will link that in the description as well. But I like to make my dough a little on the stickier side for these rolls and just form it into a ball in an oiled bowl and then let it sit until it doubles in volume. So now I'm going to show you how to make this filling. I'm adding some of that lavender sugar that we just made. It smells so good. And again, you can use the sucanat or white sugar, whatever you have. Add some cinnamon, a little pinch of nutmeg if you want, and then mix all that up, and then you pour on some melted butter. And I actually recommend mixing this up like right before you're about to fill the dough, just so that it stays more malleable because the butter will harden. So mix that up right before you start to roll out your dough. But once that dough has risen about to double, you're just going to roll it out into a rectangle. I actually like to make mine about 10 inches by 15 inches. It seems to be like the perfect shape to get the right amount of rolls and the thickness that I need for my 9 by 13 pan. And then it works great. So pour in your ooey gooey filling there and kind of sprinkle it around. You can crumble it, however you can get it throughout the dough works great. And then on the long edge is where you're actually going to start rolling it up. Try to roll it up as tight as you can, but don't fuss about it too much because it all comes out pretty great in the end. Now, I've seen a lot of people just put the dry powdered sugar inside of this, but I like to add that melted butter because it seems to keep the filling in so that when you start cutting each roll, it doesn't just crumble and fall out. So that's why I like the wet, ooey gooey filling right at the start. And then my method of choice for cutting the rolls is with just a long string of floss. You pull it around and then tie it in a knot, pull it together, and it makes a really nice clean cut. I remember learning this trick like in facts in middle school. So hopefully you already knew about it, but if not, that's a really fun trick to make your cinnamon rolls. So once they're all formed, you'll just cover them and let them rise until about double again. You'll know when the pan looks pretty full. Okay, let's make the icing. This is my favorite cream cheese icing recipe. You just use some softened cream cheese, softened butter, a pinch of salt, some vanilla. I actually added some cinnamon because I like the cinnamon flavor in the icing. A couple tablespoons of milk, and then you just whip this stuff up until it's nice and creamy smooth. And I'll have all the baking instructions on the printable recipe on my blog, so don't worry about that. But once they're cooked, let them cool, and then you're ready to spread that icing on. Now you can put the icing on actually when it's piping hot if you like it just gooey and runny. I like to let them cool a little bit since it's a cream cheese frosting, so that way it kind of holds its form a little bit better. But oh, these were delicious. It seemed to have the perfect amount of lavender flavor. You gotta be careful with lavender if you go too much on it. Some people think it tastes like soap, but just a little hint of it and it's delicious. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed this video and feel inspired to bring a little more lavender into your life. Thanks for watching. I'll be back very soon to share more inspiration for the keeper of the home.